Welcome into Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. I'm Jeffrey Cooperstein. Hope everyone had a great Memorial Day weekend. And there are some rumors that we have to get to as the Mavericks have been linked over the past few days to three potential point guards that could start the season as the opening night starting point guard for the Dallas Mavericks. We're going to talk about Jrue Holiday, we're going to talk about Chris Paul, and we're also going to talk about Lonzo Ball. Before we get into today's show, though, I want to ask you guys this. Name a point guard you want the Mavericks to sign or trade for down in the comment section. If it's a guy that we're going to talk about today, put that. If it's someone that we're not going to talk about today, put that and tell me your reasoning down there in the comment section. Can't wait to hear from you guys and see what everyone has to say. I know everyone has a lot of different opinions on what the Mavs should do this offseason, and that's always a good thing. We'll start with Jrue Holiday, who we've talked about here a couple times now on the channel, and Marc Stein, who is probably, alongside with Tim McMahon, the most plugged in Mavericks insider, said the Mavericks are expected to explore whether or not a Jrue Holiday trade is even feasible. They're expected to explore potential pathways to try to make a deal happen, and just because they're expected to explore the pathways does not mean that they are going to actually act on one of those pathways to go acquire Jrue Holiday. And the long short of it is, it's complicated. Jrue Holiday's contract makes this thing a pretty difficult move to maneuver for the Mavericks going forward, especially given where they are in the apron and where they are as a team and whatnot, with Holiday making $32.5 million this upcoming season, followed by almost $35 million in 26-27. And then in 27-28, with the player option that he's absolutely going to take up, he will be making $37.2 million at 37 years old. Is that something that the Mavericks should be interested in? And I know as a team that has this 2-year window now, Jrue Holiday kind of does fit that sort of timeline, but the contract is a big turnoff for me, man. Like, I just don't think that you should be giving, you wouldn't be giving. I don't think you should be assuming a guy's contract for 35 plus million for someone that averaged just 11 points last year and shot 35% from three. He had a pretty steep decline from the year that the Boston Celtics won the NBA title in 23-24 against the Dallas Mavericks. So, look, I like Jrue Holiday as a player. I think he potentially fits the window, but this contract is too big for me. And the Mavericks need someone who can be a point guard. I know Jrue Holiday can handle the ball, but averaged less than 4 assists last year, and I know he played a different role in Boston. He hasn't really played a true point guard, though, since he was with the New Orleans Pelicans a while back. So I'm not sure if that's a role that Holiday would be super good at and would be able to fill for the first 55-ish games that Kyrie Irving is going to miss. But we showed you this Holiday trade earlier, and this is the kind of trade that I would be looking at if I was Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks. I'd get Jrue Holiday and draft compensation in return, whatever that looks like, for Daniel Gafford, Caleb Martin, Jaden Hardy, and Omax. I wouldn't be giving up any premium asset. That includes PJ Washington. Look, Gafford's the best asset in the trade that you'd be giving up. I wouldn't be giving up a draft pick either for Holiday. It's a difficult trade to make, in my opinion, if you're the Mavericks. And look, if there's another way to do it in a 3-team deal where maybe you don't give up even that much, that could pique my interest. But I'm just not super interested in a move for Holiday this offseason. But maybe the Mavericks are, and we'll be talking about this as the offseason goes on. I want to ask you guys, though. Do you want Jrue Holiday on the Mavericks? If you do, type Y for yes. If you don't, type N for no. Again, put your reasoning down in the comments as well. And this will be the pinned comment on today's show. You may get hit with the YouTube ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And while that happens, go on down there and get your votes in. Like I said, I'm just not sure Jrue Holiday is someone I think I would really like. Does he fit the culture that the Mavericks are trying to build as far as veterans who have NBA championship experience? He does. I mean, he won the NBA championship with the Bucks, with the Celtics. So the pedigree checks out, but I just don't think the contract and the overall fit would be for me. Again, go on down there and get your votes in. Could a Chris Paul signing be feasible for the Dallas Mavericks going forward? Paul, last season with the San Antonio Spurs, was kind of someone that they wanted to lean on as a veteran option to bring Victor Wembanyama and a bunch of those young guys along in San Antonio. And I really like what Chris Paul brought to the table for the Spurs last season. He played in 82 games, and we'll talk about that in here in just a moment, but averaged 8 points. He still shot it decently from three-point land. The field goal percentage, not fantastic, but I don't put too much stock in that. The 7.4 assists, though, is something that I was really attracted to. And look, the thing that attracts me the most to Chris Paul is the 82 games played at age 39. Now, he did just turn 40 in May, so he is now officially the oldest player in the league. I think he was last year too. But look, if he can play almost every game like he did for the San Antonio Spurs, I think you could certainly do worse than Chris Paul as a member of the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I think there are better options out there. Is Jrue Holiday a better option than Chris Paul? I'm not necessarily sure, but I do think there are better options out there for the Mavericks, like perhaps one of the Jones brothers or a couple of other guys that are out there on the market that we haven't even talked about yet. I like Chris Paul a lot, brings a veteran presence to this Mavericks team. He can absolutely still run the show as a point guard. Now, is he going to be able to play 35 minutes a night at age 40? I don't know if that'll be the case, but can he certainly be a stopgap that the Mavericks need in order to have until Kyrie Irving comes back in January, February, whatever the case may be? I think you could do a lot worse than Chris Paul, and I don't think he would cost too much. I think you could get him for the taxpayer mid-level exception, which is roughly around $5.5 million or so, and that's the only exception that the Mavericks will have available to them. And I believe Paul made like $10 million last season with San Antonio, so would he take about half of what he was making last year with the Spurs? It's possible, and if you would, I think I would be in on signing Chris Paul. You wouldn't have to give up any of your assets either, so that makes it a more attractive option as well. I've kind of talked myself in to Chris Paul as we've been talking about him here on this video. Let me know down in the comments if you'd want Chris Paul. I think I'm in, and maybe we'll have to go in depth on Paul as we get closer and closer to NBA free agency. And then the last guy we're going to talk about here is Lonzo Ball. Lonzo is finally getting healthy for the Chicago Bulls to the point where the Bulls signed him to an extension at the 2025 NBA trade deadline. They had a couple of offers. Most notably, I believe one was from, I want to say it was it the Hornets? I can't remember who it was, but the Bulls had a first-round pick for him on the table. It was Memphis, I believe. Memphis offered a first-round pick, and the Bulls said no, and they signed Lonzo to an extension. So, look, he's making $10 million, this next season, and then there's a team option for $10 million in 26-27. So does that make Lonzo a super attractive option? Let's take a look at his stats from last year. 35 games played, averaged 7, 3, and 3. Came off the bench mostly, I believe. He started a decent amount as well. The field goal percentage, though, is not something that was very good whatsoever. Just 36% from the field. Shot it okay from 3, and our Bulls host, Patrick Seatman, told me that he shot it better as time went on, and he got healthier and healthier. You're not going to expect Lonzo to play every game for you. That's just something that's not realistic. So if you're looking for someone that's a more reliable option that's going to be on the court, I think Chris Paul is your man. But Lonzo has the potential to be better than at least Chris Paul, maybe Jrue Holiday as well on the offensive end if he can really get it together and has a full and complete healthy offseason where he's able to work on his game. And this is the trade idea that I kind of cooked up, and I'm not in love with this deal whatsoever. I'm not sure if I would even do this, but Lonzo and a second-round pick for PJ Washington. That second-round pick could be in the 30s, so it could be somewhat valuable. Look, I don't know if I'm giving up PJ for Lonzo in a second, but I wouldn't be giving up much more than this. Maybe you add another pick onto that, or maybe you try to go get a more attractive piece from the Bulls like Kobe White if you're looking for a package of this magnitude. I'm not sure if I even like this trade package, but this is what I cooked up. Let me know down in the comment section if you like this trade package. And now that we've talked about all three of these guys at length, pick a point guard for me. If you think it's Jrue Holiday, type 1. If you want Chris Paul, type 2. If you want Lonzo Ball, type 3 down there in the comment section. Out of those three, let me know who you want. I think my answer is number 2 in Chris Paul out of all of those guys. And that's crazy to say because Paul is certainly the oldest one and probably the one that's he'll be the one that costs the least though, but I do think he's going to be the most reliable option out there and could get the Mavs to around the trade deadline when you expect Kyrie Irving back and you don't have to give up any of the assets. So let me know down in the comments which one you like, and please be sure to hit that subscribe button. If there's any Mavs news that drops during the week, we will have you covered here with the video on the channel. It's youtube.com/MavsTV, and we'll see you guys soon.